Good morning, gentlemen and ladies. How's everybody doing? Welcome everybody to the Kantech webinar series on the INTEVO Gen 2. This is the second part of our INTEVO series, part of the webinar series, and this one is a bit more technical, but still high level on how to deploy the INTEVO. So what do? I bought an INTEVO. Very good. I'm very happy. How do you deploy it? First, we're going to focus slightly more on the INTEVO Advanced. It is not a huge difference on the INTEVO Advanced or Compact on how you deploy this. The INTEVO Advanced does come with Windows 10 Enterprise Edition, which comes with the latest, greatest of Windows 10. Some of the cool things are the firewall is actually on now. The Windows updates, Defender, and UAC are up configured specifically for Windows, right? It's specifically made for us. So when you get the box, all your settings are active and properly deployed. You do have an i5 processor like we saw last time with 4 USBs and HDMI ports, right? So very fast device on the hardware side. Now, as we saw the other time, we do have the INTEVO Compact, which is on top, and the INTEVO Advanced. The INTEVO Advanced is what we're going to focus a bit today, but it's mostly software driven. The Compact reacts the same way, right? So let's go see what you do. So you unpack the box, nice little package, a well packaged box. In there you have all the plugs you need, right? You have the power cords, you have your adapter, and you have your INTEVO itself. Very simply, it's one adapter for the world, and then you have different outlets for each one. So match the one that matches to your plug in your region, and then plug it in, right? But it's one adapter per INTEVO, obviously, but one adapter for the entire world. So our friends in South America have a different adapter compared to Europe and Asia and so on. It's all included in there. It does come also with 2 little brackets, so you can install these brackets directly onto the INTEVO and install that on the wall if you want. So if you ever want to install an INTEVO under a desk or a wall, there's 4 little screws. You attach them on the INTEVO, and then using your screws, you attach them to the wall however you want. Okay, these are not for server racks, but for the wall racks. You want to put on the wall, for example, or next to our nice, beautiful KT1s or KT400s. There's 2 ways to connect to the INTEVO, right? The first thing we do is we plug in our HDMI or our display ports. If you have a newer monitor, a really high-end monitor, you end up using the display port if you want, or the HDMI. And then we plug in the power of the INTEVO. We recommend first, if you're doing this through a monitor and a screen, you actually attach the HDMI or display port first, and then you power the actual INTEVO. If you do this after, you're going to have to play around with the cables a bit. That's the first way of doing it. Now, if you put this in a server room, you most likely won't have any kind of a monitor or screen or KVM switch or any of the above, all the above, right? Now, what we can do here is use a remote configuration tool. This remote configuration tool can be plugged in on any computer other than the INTEVO, obviously, and this will allow you to configure and find INTEVOs. Kind of like how we have the Illustra camera tool finder, this goes and finds INTEVOs. It does come with a package, so it comes in the same box with all your adapters. You also get this remote configuration tool. It does give you some extra tools in it, but the most preferable one is the configuration tool, which will let you find stuff, which is very easy. You plug in the INTEVO, you run the configuration tool, and this will scan your network for all available INTEVOs. Right? So you plug in the INTEVO, you plug in the Ethernet port in this case, because you do need an Ethernet at a minimum, right? And then this will find your INTEVOs across your network. You do require DHCP at least for this to work. So most customers do have DHCP on their network, regardless, a router, if you have internet, right? If not, you go direct with a camera, display, screen, and keyboard and mouse. Now, once you connect to the website, it brings you up the configuration tool. And this configuration tool opens up right away, and you can configure your INTEVO entirely. Now, the next part, whether you go through your direct screen or you go through the configuration, are identical, right? It's very important to note that if you go through a third-party computer, you need to use Internet Explorer. Yes, we know, Internet Explorer, and it does require Silverlight to actually run the page the first time. You'll get a warning to install Silverlight, which you then install and you start using. It's an 8-step wizard that's required to deploy the INTEVO. Now, it's very easy, and I'm not going to go through all the 8 steps for you. Some of them are just marketing or agreements and so on. So I'm going to go through the most important steps, the ones you need to be mostly aware of or should know. First is choose the language. So again, we have different regions, and they want to have 18 different INTEVOs. You want it in French, you put it in French. You want Spanish, you put it in Spanish, right? Whatever language is supported, we support a few languages there. They're all marked at the bottom. You choose the one you want. And then you configure your INTEVO settings, the computer name, the time zone, just Windows generic settings. A lot of us don't know how to get to Windows and change half these things, right? So we leave them all by default and nothing works half the time on our computers. Well, now we have a wizard that goes, go there, click on these settings, and you'll be done, right? The next thing we do is we configure our Ethernet ports. Now, what I like about this part is that it's mostly a plug-and-play solution. We give you all the defaults. Now, if you wish to change them, you're more than likely to change them to different ports. And even asks you, what web service port are you going to be using for your enterprise web? How are you going to connect to it? Right? Which port are you plugging in your corporate network on? Because as you guys know, the INTEVO has 2 Ethernet ports. The first one is for the considered corporate network where you plug it into your business. And the second Ethernet port is considered a camera network where you plug in your cameras generically, right? Attached to that on a private network. Some people like to flip it around. They're more than welcome. We gotta know which one it is, right? And a lot of these questions came from the first INTEVO. You guys told us I had to do this extra 5 steps to get my INTEVO going. Well, guess what? With the INTEVO Gen 2, these 5-6 steps that are important are now included in the wizard. So this way you don't have to do them afterwards. You don't have to go hunting for this information. It's a wizard, step-by-step guide. Press next, you fill it up, and you're done. All right? On the same step 5, you can deploy your PoE ports on your INTEVO. Your INTEVO Advanced comes with 8 PoE ports, if you don't remember, and the INTEVO comes with a whopping 4. Now, the cool part with the INTEVO Compact is that the INTEVO Compact has 4 PoE ports, and those are all configured under one DHCP server. Yes, they provide their own DHCP server directly on it. Whereas the INTEVO Advanced has 8 PoE ports, and 4 of them, so the first 4, have their own DHCP server. So their own range of addresses that we give, right? DHCP from 10.1 is the range, and then the 11.1 for the next range for every port. Whereas the last 4 ports share that one DHCP server. So the last 4 ports are the same ranges of IP addresses you're going to get. What does that mean for you? To make your life easy, you can plug in your IKT 400 controllers over IP, and they're going to grab an IP address from port 7 to 10. Okay. The benefit of that is very easy. Now, you could change the settings in here if you want to have a different DHCP address or server for each one. Port Ethernet 1 and 2 don't generate on DHCP address, obviously, because if you plug that address into your network, guess what happens? IT calls you and says, "Hey guys, why are you generating an IP address?" So Ethernet port 1 and 2 don't generate an IP address. You have to plug it like a regular computer for it to work. All right. So again, you don't have to go. You don't need to know Windows to configure this. You just fill up these 8 steps. Most of them are pretty much plug and play, and you're pretty much done, right? One of the steps is software. This is really fun. So it's very simple. You have a choice of auto deploying ExactVision the way you want. In what version do you want by default? By default, you can specify that ExactVision comes with no ExactVision. I don't want to install ExactVision for whatever reason. I don't think you should, but you could. It also will come install automatically for you Exact 9.4. That's the one that comes with the box. Now, if your INTEVO is already plugged in on the network, right? Because of the previous steps, it will go and grab and download the newest version automatically for you and install that version for you. You don't even see that. Till I told you that it does that, you had no idea. It automatically goes and downloads the newest version of ExactVision from the cloud. Now, if you're not privileged to have internet yet, you can always use a USB memory device like a USB stick and plug it in to upload or copy the newest version. So you go to the Exact website, you download the Exact whatever they're at now, 19 something or 20, and then you plug it in, and it automatically updates, right? And then, or if you don't have anything, it will install 9.4. Now, before you panic, 9.4 and version 20 are not that far apart. As you guys are aware, recently Exact changed the way they name their versions. Now they go by year. So 9.4 is probably 2019, somewhere around there. Whereas now they're 20, which is 2020. So it's only a few months old. But again, it auto updates for you.